Well, what a day it's been in the EFL Championship, and we are recording instantly after the final whistle between Oxford and Leeds United. A dramatic finish in that one too, as I'm off to the Crucible tomorrow. But between now and then, we're going to look ahead to match week 44, the Easter Monday edition in the EFL Championship. 3 games to go and still a lot to play for. And boy, has it got tense at the bottom. We're going to look ahead, preview and predict the scores for all 12 matches. And of course, as always, encourage you to do exactly the same in the comments section below. If you beat or match my overall score, you'll get a shout out when we return in midweek to look ahead to the penultimate weekend of the season. For now though, before we go and look ahead to Monday's edition, let's have a look back at match week 43, which started with me being extremely happy to get 0 points for the early kickoff. I don't know how Luton won it, but they did. And that stopped me getting a point there. But overall, I did manage to get 8. Just 1 perfect score for Bristol City's 2-1 win against Sunderland, among 8 points in total with 5 correct outcomes. I did lose another late perfect score as Sheffield United got a second against Cardiff. And I also got correct outcomes for the wins for Leeds, Stoke City, Queen's Park Rangers and Middlesbrough. Remarkably, no draws across the 12 matches, which also means no Championship's favourite scorelines. And the 1 week I go low scoring, of course the goals come flooding back. Predictably, nobody had 5-3 to Portsmouth against Norwich. Let's have a look at those of you who did beat or match my score though, and I am sat with a number of you in mid-table on 8 points. Myself, Nigel, Steve, Peter, Chris and Drone all got 8 points overall, a decent effort for match week 43. Beating us by 1 with 9 is Ben, before we move into double figures with Mike, who's got 10. 2 of you on 11 in Trevor and Gordon. 3 of you on 12 in Sai, Mello and Mick. And then the runner-up for this match week with 13 points is Ojo, who returns to form after a poor week. Before we go to our runaway leader, at the top with multiple perfect scores, Leo with 16, a brilliant effort and our match week winner. With that out of the way though, let's move on to match week 44, and it is tense at the bottom and the top. And we start with a couple of games that are huge in the battle at the bottom. The first one, no early kickoff, 11:03 p.m.s, is Cardiff City versus Oxford United. Have Oxford done enough? They put in a spirited effort against Leeds and could have got an equaliser just a few minutes ago as I'm recording this late on. Created a couple of chances in stoppage time. Overall, generally Leeds did manage the game against them, but Oxford were a threat and, unlike I thought, didn't really go to the beach despite the fact they're all but safe. Or are they? I said 48 was the magic number. There's only 3 places separating them with relegation now. I think though, with Derby to play Hull, I think they might be all right on that points total. They did, though, pick up 2 wins in their last 4. They've picked up 3 1-0 wins in the last month, which have been pivotal. And for Cardiff, it's the wrong time to go 5 without a win. To be honest, not the worst performance in the world at Sheffield United. It was a very cagey game until the host got the opener. And late on, as they went out to try and chase it a bit, they obviously got caught for the second. But a spirited effort, is that enough now? I don't know. This game becomes huge because Oxford, I know they won at Sheffield Wednesday, but they're rotten travellers generally. And if Cardiff City are going to find a home win that gets them away from danger, this has probably got to be the game, hasn't it? They've only scored in 2 of their last 5 matches. They struggled at home to Stoke in the last similar game. And you know Gary Rowett will set his side up and say, look boys, you get a point today, you're going to be safe. And I think they might get it, you know. I think Cardiff are going to have to chase the game. If they score early and can sit back, I can see a Cardiff 1-0 win. I've got a sneaky feeling Oxford might nick one. They have in all of their last 6 matches prior to the Leeds game. So I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline. We didn't get any draws in the last match week. I'm starting with 1 this time. 1-1, a result that certainly will not help Cardiff City. As we move on to our second match, and as a Luton Town fan, I am praying that Preston North End turn up. They are playing away at Hull City, who have been in wretched form and are drifting back towards that relegation zone. I said it last week, I think they are the only team outside the relegation zone that can save my Luton Town team. They were awful against Luton. They've lost, 3 of their last 5 by 1-0. They've looked so uninspiring in front of goal. They're trying to set up to be solid, and they are to an extent. But in that game against Swansea, to lose 1-0, to get the late red card as well, it's all not going to help them going into this one. Against a Preston side that are depleted, that are struggling themselves in awful form, 49 points should be enough for them. But that late goal against QPR means that, of course, Another defeat, another poor moment, and we tend to go to be one up when you're not playing your best. To still find a way to lose it is a little bit gut-wrenching, but I think they've done enough for now. I just need them to get something out of this game. Again, they'll look at it and say, boys, get a point. There's teams that aren't going to be able to catch it with a couple of games to go. You're going to be in a good position. Hopefully they turn up and do that. They've been conceding goals for fun recently. You've got Preston in loads of high-scoring games. Hull City aren't scoring or conceding, really. Which way do you go? I'm going to go for the latter. For Hull City's form to take precedence, I'm going for a 0-0 draw. 2 to start in a row. And this one is going to be goalless. As we turn our attention to the top of the table against a side that can breathe a sigh of relief, it is Leeds United versus Stoke City. To be fair, both will probably breathe a sigh of relief. Leeds, late on, a few skirmishes against Oxford. Wasn't the convincing, comfortable day we thought. Managed the game well for the most part, but when you're only one up late on, there's always going to be those nerves. And of course, in the last 3 games, they've nicked wins by the odd goal. They've almost done the job now. If Burnley avoid defeat against Sheffield United, the top 2's basically done, isn't it? They're at home to a Stoke side who might well be putting their flip-flops on because after 2 wins against Cardiff and Sheffield Wednesday, it is job done. Was a solid performance. We kind of said we thought they'd get over the line in this game and they did. The goal, obviously, for Wilmot, the second, was a ridiculous one. Go and check it out if you haven't seen it. The goal kicked straight off his backside into the back of the net. But Stoke were decent value for it. They gave up the ball, they played to their strengths, and they won the game. So you've got to give them credit. Mark Robins has got to focus on the rebuild for the summer, but to get them 5 unbeaten at this stage, no mean feat. I know they conceded that late goal against Luton. They've otherwise been much more solid at the back, and they've still carried a goal threat too. This game's going to be too far for them, though. Leeds United will get over the line. They will be promoted. And Stoke, I think we'll see a little drop-off now. I'm going to go for the host to win this one fairly comfortably, but maybe with the late final goal by 3-1 to Leeds United. Then we move back to the bottom and the playoff race, and it's my club Luton Town who host Bristol City. Luton were the big winners in Matchweek 43, the only one of the bottom 5 to pick up any points, and they got 3 of them away at Derby. I've no idea how, because after a pretty positive first half where they weren't brilliant, but, you know, they managed the game. They were battered second half, literally battered from pillar to post. No idea how Derby didn't get something out of it. McGuinness had about 3 off the line. I've given him a lot of criticism this year, justifiably so at times, but he was remarkable in that game. Thomas Kaminski popping up with 1 or 2 big ones as well. And a few defenders returning from injury, which is going to be a boost too. Burke and Mengi, key parts of the Premier League side that did well last year. They've been missing for far too long. So really encouraging signs defensively. A gritty 1-0 away win, always good, but it was a brutal watch, let's be honest. On the flip side of that, Bristol City absolutely flying. 4 clearing those playoff places now. And again, finding a way to win ugly. 4 2-1 wins in their last 6. Of course, in this one, it was a bit weird. They went 1 down despite playing 10 men for over 80 minutes, but they battered Sunderland after that, as you would expect with the extra man for 80. And in the end, it paid dividends. But a very different performance for Bristol City where they had to dominate the ball and go and be the aggressors. And they managed to win that way as well. So showing all sides of their versatile game. And I've been really impressed with them in recent weeks. I think a result would be important for them here. Looking at the sides outside the playoffs, for Bristol City, it's important they keep that unbeaten run going. And maybe, like Coventry, try and go in with momentum. For this game, I'm going to go with heart over head slightly. Luton like a 1-1 draw in recent times. It will be a backs to the wall job for large parts. Bristol City drew 1-1 at QPR in their last away game. So I'm going to go for that score again. A result that, given the rest of the games, I don't think is a disaster for either team. I'm going to go for Luton 1, Bristol City 1. And hopefully Luton will survive and Bristol City will make the playoffs. Let's move on to the 2 teams that produced the stunning, shocking defensive disaster classes of Friday afternoon. Millwall versus Norwich City. It's fair to say that nobody saw Millwall conceding 4 or Norwich conceding 5 in their respective matches. Millwall lost 4-1 away at Blackburn, a bonkers end to the first half. It was a strange old game. To be honest, on another day, it could have been a bit closer. Blackburn dominated the ball, but Millwall had chances themselves. They were uncharacteristically awful defensively though, and just as they got in that battle for the playoffs, it slipped away against an out-of-form team, because even though Blackburn won at Luton, they didn't look great. That one will really hurt Millwall, and it will really hurt Alex Neil. However, Norwich City didn't have much to play for, and it showed. They were abysmal against Portsmouth. Defensively, some of the goals they gave up, soft isn't the right word. Portsmouth, a side that have been pretty woeful on the road most of this season, have struggled to score at times away from home. And while, yes, they didn't have as many clear-cut chances as the amount they scored, to give up 22 shots to a team that struggles to create at times on the road, 10 of them on target, despite the fact you've dominated the ball for most of the game, it's all good having the possession and that, but we mentioned it before, David Wagner went against his style with Norwich because he needed to set them up to be a bit more solid, and Norwich this season are significantly worse off, despite the fact at times they've played better football or had more possession of the ball. You've got to make the right decision for the team you've got, and Norwich are not getting the best out of that squad. That was a pretty wretched display. For this game, you've now got two sides probably with nothing to play for. Millwall 6 off the playoffs with 2 to go is probably more important for them. And given the fact that Norwich are so bad defensively away from home, 6 conceded in their last 3 on the road, then 5 at home to Pompey last time, lost at Plymouth, lost against a side near the bottom in Pompey, I don't see them getting the result. I'm going to go for a rare day of Millwall scoring 2 and winning this game against Norwich by 2-1. As we move on to the side at the bottom of the table, who risk getting cut adrift again, it is Plymouth Argyle against 6th place Coventry City. This game is huge for both again. You've got to say Plymouth, despite heartbreak late on against Borough, it was a soft penalty and red card, but again gave the referee a choice, which is a shame. They threw it away in the 93rd minute after a really spirited effort. And to be honest, you've got to be fair to Plymouth. Looked a real threat on the counter. Had loads of shots and opportunities against Borough. Had probably more of the better chances in the game overall. But he didn't take them all. And that extra quality showed us late on. Middlesbrough clever to win the penalty and win the game. For Plymouth then, a disappointing day. But they've won their last 2 home games by 2-1. Coventry have had a couple of tough days on the road at Hull City and at Sheffield United. But a big win against West Bromwich Albion. A 2-0 victory, 2 up before West Brom imploded with the red card. Didn't really have a shot on them. There was a good defensive display from Coventry, which they do need to take some credit for. And overall, just an efficient, solid home display. So big credit to Frank Lampard's side. They stay 3 clear in that push for the playoffs. And they'll be gutted that Plymouth did concede late on last time. I've got a funny feeling about this game. It's one of those where I can't explain what I'm going to do. And I haven't really got the stats to back it up. But Plymouth have won their last 2 home games. Coventry have got pressure on them. They have got a leakier defence than, well, anyone in the top 11 at the minute. I'm going to go for them to lose this game. I'm going to go for a Plymouth shock by 2-1. I don't want that to happen as a Luton fan. I hope I'm really wrong. And I'd like Coventry to make the playoffs because their fans were great with us a couple of years ago. I've got one of those odd feelings about this game and I have to go with a hunch. 2-1 to Plymouth Argyle against all of my better judgment. Into the second half, and we move to the side that again will breathe a big sigh of relief. It is Portsmouth at home to Watford. Watford imploded a little bit in the second half against Burnley. Obviously went down to 9 men, a couple of silly decisions. I know Fleming didn't cover himself in glory, holding his face and rolling around, but look, he was going to get the second yellow for the push, and then the discipline just disappeared. The amount of cards Watford picked up, the amount of fouls they gave away. It was one of those days where Tom Cleverley will probably be worried and looking at a few of his players. Again, ends their playoff chances with 3 games to go. It's a shame because it had started well for them and they'd done pretty well. However, they gave up so many chances to Burnley near the end. And if we're being honest, Burnley should have taken more late on. They should have got further ahead and Watford deservedly lost. But a decent first half. Discipline, though, very much the question mark for them. They face a Portsmouth side who were blistering on the road at Norwich, albeit against one of the poorest defensive performances you'll see all season. They created a couple of good chances. They countered with speed. They countered with numbers. And John Mousinho got it right again. All that tinkering earlier in the season, it's done the job. A brilliant performance, a really good result. And Portsmouth on 49, probably now safe as well. For this one, will it be a homecoming party? They've been good at home in recent months for the most part. I know they had that disappointment against Plymouth, but otherwise they've been solid. They've picked up points. Watford, we know, are terrible on the road. So I'm going to go for Pompey to nick it. And for the 3rd game in succession, I'm going 2-1 to the home side. As we move up to London next for a mid-table game with nothing on it at all. So I'll make it quick. It's QPR versus Swansea. Alan Sheehan makes it 4 wins and 4 clean sheets in a row. Beaten all those teams below him and got that win at Sunderland. Seriously, Swansea board, give him the job. He's done an excellent bit of work there and has helped out his former club Luton by beating Hull City. A 1-0 victory in which they just about edged the number of chances. It was a more open game than the stats make it look. But to be honest, without being brilliant, they're picking up results. They look a solid side. And we haven't said that about Swansea for a very, very long time. So really great work from Sheehan. Who would have had Swansea 11th when Luke Williams left the club? For QPR, a 2-1 win against Preston. It's now, 8 points in their last 4. They've really picked up the pace, move into a comfortable mid-table position. And that late comeback against Preston with the 93rd minute winner too. It's no less than they deserved over the course of the game. Again, hitting on the counter and looking a real threat. So a decent season for them, away from trouble. They've just got to build on that attack in front to make themselves more of a threat and maybe a playoff contender next season. For this game, I'm going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline. The run of clean sheets has to end eventually for Swansea, and QPR, they've been picking up a lot of draws, so I'm going to go for 1 goal apiece. As we move on to another side that are on the beach, hosting a big playoff pusher, it is Sheffield Wednesday versus Middlesbrough. Borough nicked that very late win against Plymouth. They were fortunate in that game. Yes, it was a soft penalty, but probably still a penalty. It was a silly one to put your hands up, but Middlesbrough were not convincing there. Dominated the ball. They played into the Plymouth game plan, and he got hit on the break a few times. On another day, against a more ruthless attack, they could have lost that game. And we've said lots of games Borough this season have dominated and should have won. They were the better team overall in this game, but there are not many times Plymouth have had 19 shots on the road, if any. I would be incredibly alarmed offensively. Maybe that's going to be the difference, because Borough and Coventry, the sides battling for 6th at the minute, have got the worst defences by a long way out of those playoff chasers. They go away to a Sheffield Wednesday side that, thankfully for Borough, are completely on the beach, not paid for March on time, transfer embargo incoming, Danny Roll, favourite for the Southampton job, and it's all gone a little bit wrong, hasn't it? They lost 2-0 at Stoke. They were pretty soundly beaten. The second goal was ridiculous. They created next to nothing, which we haven't said about them a lot this year. It feels like the season's basically over for them and everyone's just packed up and gone. So I'm going to have to go for Middlesbrough to win. I don't think it'll be an absolutely blistering display. Borough don't often take lots of chances in a match. So I'm going to go for a very narrow win again, and the same scoreline as last time. A 2-1 win for Borough on the road at Hillsborough. 3 to go, and this one has just become a bit harder to call. Again, 2 with nothing to play for really. It is Sunderland versus Blackburn Rovers. Blackburn, where did that win come from? Nicked one at Luton, but a 4-1 win at home to Millwall. And to be honest with you, it was a more even game in terms of the great chances, but it was a much better Blackburn performance. Certainly the most progressive under Ishmael. 60% of the ball, lots of shots on goal, lots of good chances too. We started to see a glimmer of light after a poor start. And we did say we think once Ishmael settled in, you'd see a better Blackburn Rovers. But it's going to take time and it's going to take the summer. And unfortunately, those 2 performances and results a little too late to get them in the playoffs. Now 7 behind with 3 to play. For Sunderland, another defeat at Bristol City. Obviously a decent effort given that they were down to 10 men after 7. And after that, they went 1-0 up and then attempted a defensive masterclass up against a good Bristol City team. They were battered. They almost held on. They didn't quite. As many Sunderland fans have said, they're just preparing for the playoffs now. You've got to go in with a little bit of momentum and a little bit of form. And based on the fact they've scored, 3 goals in their last 6 matches, they've not looked particularly good in the last couple either. There's a time where they've got to start trying to build again. And I wonder if Monday's going to be that day. Blackburn, I know they won at Luton, but they've been poor travellers generally. They still haven't been convincing on the road in any game under Ishmael. And I'm going to go for Sunderland to get that win now and turn it around with a 1-0 at home to Blackburn. Probably not the best game of Monday afternoon. And the final 3 p.m. kickoff is big at both ends of the table. Last chance saloon for West Bromwich Albion, at home to a Derby County side who maybe are back in trouble. We mentioned it a bit earlier on. I've no idea how Derby lost that game. I think John Eustace will be frustrated by the way they started. They were slow, they were pretty lethargic and created next to nothing in the first half. Second half, they were brilliant. They battered Luton, they dominated, they had chance after chance. And I'll count every lucky star that Luton got the 3 points. And I don't really know how it happened. But if Derby play like that when they come up against Hull and Stoke in the last 2 games, they'll stay up. There's no doubt about it. For West Brom, 4 defeats in 5 now. 2-0 at Coventry and losing to Coventry to Bristol City. They're the pivotal games. It leaves them 6 points away with 3 to go. I'm a little bit surprised by what's happened here under Tony Mowbray. We know it wasn't a squad that perfectly suited his style of play. We still thought they'd have enough to get in terms of discipline. The bigger worry now is, as well as not scoring, they've started to concede goals too. I've just been a little bit surprised about how porous they've become. So, against a Derby side that are rotten on the road, I do think they're going to win this game. Wouldn't shock me if it was a draw, but I don't think it's going to be a great match. For me, I still think Derby survive comfortably and they'll pick up 4 or 6 points in their last two. But on this occasion, I'm going to go for West Brom to win. I'm going to go for the old classic West Brom score of 2-0 at home to Derby County. And the final game promises to be the biggest one and arguably the least entertaining. Live on ITV and Sky Sports, it is Burnley v Sheffield United in a late kickoff. Both of them got big wins on Friday afternoon. Burnley by 2-1 at Watford. We mentioned after turning it around, they were helped that Watford lost their discipline. Will be a concern again that they didn't take their chance to score more late on, but they got the 3 points, they're 5 clear. And they've put themselves in a great position now because anything other than a defeat is a brilliant result. 5 points clear with 2 games to go will be an absolute dream. And we did say it for all the time that Burnley were third. The team with the best defence usually gets promoted, and Burnley have proven that. Yes, letting one against Watford and weren't great early on, but 14 goals in 43 games. So it's a fantastic record, but they're going to have to improve in the summer going forward if they want to compete in the Premier League. But first of all, they've got to get a result against Sheffield United, who got back to winning ways against Cardiff, and they'll look at it the other way. Win, and with 2 games to go, we're 2 points behind Burnley and put the pressure on. Wasn't a vintage Sheffield United performance, and quite frankly, doesn't matter at this point. They gave up a couple of chances on the break to Cardiff, but Harmer again showing his class and then got that late second. It's a really important win and at least keeps the race alive. But obviously it could be over after this game on Monday. Now, my head is telling me that this is going to be a 0-0 or 1-1 draw and that Burnley will stay 5 points clear and everything will look hunky-dory for the top 2. However, I'm going to go with a prediction for the fans here. We all want it to go to the wire. We all want a little bit of entertainment. So I'm going to go just purely on the basis that we want this race to stay alive for a 1-0 Sheffield United win, just to see if we can keep that battle for the top 2 open. But with that out of the way, let's have a quick recap of what I've gone for in match week 44. I've gone fairly low scoring with Leeds United, might only to score 3. I'm pretty sure Stoke will be on the beach after that win. I've also gone for Luton Town to pick up a point and leapfrog Derby County, albeit only temporarily with 2 games to go. And Sheffield United to win the big one in the evening to close the gap and keep the race alive at the top. But realistically, it'll probably be 0-0 or 1-1. Those are just my predictions for Easter Monday though. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments section. Give us your predictions for match week 44. And as I mentioned before, if you beat or match my overall predictions, you will get a shout out on Wednesday when we return to look ahead to the weekend fixture list, the penultimate one of the championship season. Plenty of action to come, playoffs across the EFL to follow as well. Please do chuck a thumbs up if you enjoyed this one. Subscribe and turn that notification bell on to stay up to date with everything across the channel. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the Easter Monday fixtures, and let's hope I'm wrong with Luton Town again and they can pick up another 3 points.